Today's proverb is Proverbs 27:17. Andy Lamb, you want to read it?
Yeah, this is an old school one here, but as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Again, I'll read that again. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. This is one of these verses that travels in groups inside of men's ministries all around the world, and it's kind of the bumper sticker, the T-shirt, if you would call it, of men's.
I don't think it's just in men's groups, Christian groups. I think this is a well-known.
It is a well-known, but what I'm saying is this is the mantra. Anytime you see any of these men's groups that are at churches, this is kind of like their verse that they're going to base it off of, as they should.
Yeah.
As they should.
Okay.
But as I was really looking at this verse, I kind of dug a little bit deeper, trying to understand the whole process of how do you even get iron? And there's a 3-stage process that happens when they make iron. So you have the smelting process, which is the preparation of it, where they are heating the temperatures up to 1,200 degrees in order to start to get the impurities out of it. There's the forging process, which makes it a useful product. And then you have the sharpening, which makes it for precise effectiveness of it. And so I was looking at the forging process of this because I found that part actually to be the very intriguing part. You see these blacksmiths, and you'll see them just hammering on this iron. And I was wondering, how long did that process take? And because they have to heat it up and cool it down and heat it up and cool it down, they'll have anywhere from 5 to 7 of these 1 hour to 2 hour long sessions where they're just beating.
Striking it with a hammer.
They're just beating on it, taking it, folding it in half, heating it back up, beating it back out again. In some instances, it can take up to 24 hours before they finally have a piece of iron ready to be able to be made and put it into a useful tool. Now, whether that tool would be a farming tool, we often look at it as I'm making it for a sword, something that's going to take me into battle. But it was an arduous process, and it required repeated hammering of this in order to get it to a useful tool. And as I really start to contemplate that concept, that's so much of the Christian life is us, God putting us through these hard trials, beating us, right, against hard things in order to refine us and to make us into something that we can be useful of them. Once we've gone through that process, which I still think is a lifelong process, the next part is actually the sharpening part, where they'll take that piece of iron and they'll strike it against either a hard stone. If soldiers are in the field, they're doing it with another sword, and they're using that iron to sharpen another piece of iron. And so it's 2 hard objects coming at one another in order to make this precision product at the end of it. And as I looked at that, it really kind of helped me broaden my viewpoint of what was King Solomon really trying to say when he wrote this proverb for people? It's not just these 2 pieces of iron clanging against each other. It's an entire process throughout our entire life that will make us into the men and women that we are today that can be used by God for precise uses.
It's fantastic. I think I kind of visualized it as you were saying it in a way where the smelting process is kind of it's like the stuff I got myself into. You know, pre-accepting God, I built up a lot of impurities in me. And that initial piece where I'm going to God, I'm already in the fire. I personally, for myself, I kind of visualize it this way. It's like I was already in the fire. I had built up enough impurities in me that I had to be cast in the fire to get some of this stuff on out. So then that first step, that smelting step, is the burning away. It's like me, I submit myself to Christ. I say, I've built a life of lies. I've built a life of struggle, and I can't do it anymore, God, and I need you. And God steps into that process and pulls me out of the fire. But yeah, there's still a lot to do there. So then, yeah, he's like rescues me from that fire piece, and it's nice for a minute. But he says, you know, we got to get to growing now. We got to get to sharpening you. We got to get to making you the useful tool that I now need you to be since I pulled you from that fire, really. And it's your desire for that too. So it's you know, both things at the same time. So that next step is like kind of beating away or striking away all the lifelong bad decisions and bad reactions I have to things and bad thought processes. And and then dumping me into the water and then putting me back into the fire again. And I mean, that's what you're saying. This circular process to make me the best tool. I see it that way. I see it as we go about any of these things in life, you'll still run into, you think, boy, things are going pretty good and I really got this thing figured out. And then you resubmit to God again at this place and he goes, I still got some stuff, buddy, and you know it. And a couple of memories will become sharp in my brain of this last week and where I fell short of who I want to be and reacted poorly or did something in my mind or action, either one, that, is short of what God wants to see from me and what is the highest and best version of me. Last episode we spoke about Dietrich Bonhoeffer. In this episode, as we move through this coming episode here about overcoming adversity and ultimately kind of leaning a little heavier into community and purpose and the purpose of community and how you can go about getting a community, I've been reading a lot of Bonhoeffer's stuff and listening to a lot of his stuff. You can find a lot of his stuff on YouTube. And he's got this saying here: the Christian needs another Christian who speaks God's word to him. He needs him again and again when he becomes uncertain and discouraged. For by himself he cannot help himself without belying. Belying means contradicting, without belying the truth. He needs his brothers as a bearer and proclaimer of the divine word of salvation. So what he's saying there is like, if I'm all by myself, I'm just a little island of my thoughts and ideas, which is where I was before I knew Jesus.
Right.
And even with my relationship with Jesus, if I'm not constantly discussing with other Christian men and running these ideas and these thoughts past, my ideas I can corrupt myself because like he's saying here, I cannot help myself but contradict the truth of who God is. Because I'll start taking a little credit for things, or I'll start building this universe where, maybe a conspiratorial universe where things are coming down.
God, that's a big one right now, isn't it?
It is. It sure is. Because, and it's underlined by all culture and society is saying like, be fearful. Be afraid. Bad things are coming. Bad things are in the forecast.
Don't trust anyone.
You can't trust anyone. Don't trust people across the world, but don't even trust your neighbor. And if that person's a different color than you, or they're a different race than you, or a different gender than you, all these different things. And if you're an island to yourself, and you're not going to, what we're going to end up pitching later, which is, getting yourself involved actively with community through church, we would argue, then you're going to start seeing all these different people with these different stories. And it's going to unload the burden of thinking the other is the enemy. You're going to start hearing them and you're going to be able to relate it because it's part of who you are. You'll hear a lot of yourself in other people's stories, even if it's not the same story. And that's iron sharpens iron, because that vulnerability that you show and that you have the opportunity to show in community and Christian community specifically is going to help you realize that to be the better you also have to be vulnerable. And you have to be able to share these things of your heart and of your mind truthfully. And it unburdens you of like this fear of rejection. And that's, at the end of the day, I think that's one of the biggest ones that we have, is this fear that if I was to show people who I really am or tell people who I really am or the thoughts I really have, boy, nobody would be able to like me or be around me. I'd be unacceptable. And it's because we kind of hold that in ourselves. But Christ says that he accepted you. He has great plans for you. He thought of you when you were in your mother's womb. He counted every hair on your head. So he's got these plans, and once you accept him, he accepts you right away. So if you're leading from that place, it helps you to be maybe more vulnerable with this community, and that's when you're able to have that iron sharpens iron. I share with you, you share with me. You straighten me out when I'm on the wrong path. I straighten you out when you're on the wrong path.
Yeah, what you said there, that just kind of struck this. We've talked about it here before. It's the 10%. I give people 90, I hold on to that 10. And it's that 10%, if I allow that 10% of whatever that is, it's the part of me that if I tell somebody what I'm really thinking and what I'm really doing, God, they're going to reject me. They're not going to want to be friends with me. They're going to condemn me. And so we hold on to those things really, really tightly. And those are the impurities King Solomon is talking about, that if they do not get all of them out, then that sword becomes brittle and it becomes weak.
Love that.
And then when they need that tool in battle, they're not able to use it correctly because it wasn't forged correctly.
Gosh, that's so great. That is, we've taken firearms training and firearms classes, tactical classes, and what they always say in those classes is when the pressure's on, you'll fall to your lowest level of training because you're just reacting. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't been practicing and training the things that you need, you'll fall to your lowest level of it. Doesn't matter how good you were that one Saturday, you hit them all on the bullseye. If you're most frequently blowing them out of you're not hitting the target at all, that's what's going to happen on that day when crisis arises. And the same thing applies in our life. If we are not forging each other now and going through the things now and speaking to these things and sharing examples of how I've fallen short and you've fallen short, when that day comes, we're not going to have the capability to stand up to it because we won't know where we'll be very lost.
Yeah, that's such a great point too, because if all I'm doing is my target practice. So all I'm doing when I shoot is going out and plinking a little. Sure. And I'm not putting myself in what happens in this scenario.
Shoot and move.
I'm not training really for anything. So what use am I to everybody else? I'm the weakest link now.
Oh, that's also great. You will bring down the people around you or the people that have trusted you to be the guy to stand up in that moment. If you're not ready and they've put all their faith in you too, it's like, so there's, as a husband and father, like I put an extra duty on myself to be the protector of my household. Mm-hmm. And other people in our family now have given me that responsibility as too, because they trust me and they see me working, by the way.
Training,
by the way. So it is the effort I am putting in. The people around me see it and they go, oh, you got a stable foundation here.
Yeah.
And I hope that it inspires them to develop their own stable foundation. But at the same time, it is nice also putting in that work and then getting that credibility for it.
That's exactly right. So the people that I'm surrounding my life with are people that are training at the same level that I'm training at. I don't want to be the weakest link.
No.
Right. I want to be one of the people.
And I also don't want to have any other weak links.
I can't have any other weak links.
So it's required of us to step in on our brothers and say, hey, you're becoming a weak link.
Time to sharpen something here.
Time to sharpen it here.
Right. And if I've built relationship equity with that person,
they'll respect you when you do it,
and they'll listen because they see me out here doing the work as well.
Yep.
And so
you're not asking them to do something you haven't already done or wouldn't do.
I think about the movie 300, and you think about the Spartan soldiers that went into battle, 300 versus 1,000,000, whatever it is. The way they were able to beat so many people is their style of fighting was called the phalanx. The phalanx was the person on the right protected the person on the left. They were one impenetrable shield. Guess what? They practiced and they trained together as a unified team so that when the day of battle came, everybody knew the role that they had and everybody was ready for battle. Didn't mean that some of them died along the way. What it did mean is that the guy standing on the right was protecting the man on the left. That means the man on the left knew the guy on the right had his back and had his protection.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, man.
Well, guys, if you have an Iron Sharpens Iron story, please share it in the comments. Like and subscribe. Let us know what you think. You got some homies around you that have protected you. Give us an example of how you've been protected, and we'll talk about it sometime soon. Thanks for joining us. Have an awesome day.